Another episode of Bodybuilding Room 101, episode number 13, with today's guest, IFBB Pro, Kelvin Hinde. Kelvin, first point into Room 101. Hit us with it.
Reverse dieting.
Elaborate.
Now, well, it might be controversial because I do think there's certain things that need to be taken into account when you're coming off a diet, because you are going to rebound drastically. But I think, from me personally, the last thing I want is someone to go, I want you to have this for meal 1, this for meal 2, this for meal 3, this for meal 4, this for meal 5. I'm like, mate, I've just been dieting for 10 months. I'm eating what I want, when I want. To a degree. I've still had chicken and rice a couple of times today, but if I want a flapjack with it, or if I want a bit of ice cream and my oats later on, then I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna have some meals a bit lower, if you like.
Did you say ice cream in your oats?
Yeah, I had that last night.
I've never heard of that before.
Well, you're thinking some crazy stuff when you've been so hungry for a long time.
That's probably a point. That's probably a point I'm on his own. Where, what's the weirdest thing you've eaten, or weirdest habit? You know,
I put peanut butter in with my Nando's and chicken and rice. That tastes pretty good.
That's all right. I'll do that.
Yeah. Like satay chicken.
Yeah. Well, when I'm dieting, I have, because I told you I was on keto, so even though I'm diabetic, so it was that was fun. But I had the chicken with satay, peanut butter on it, and as a meal. It's quite nice.
Well, so just to go back to the point, right? I think for someone who is experienced and has got plenty of muscle, someone like yourself, and you're obviously an IFBB Pro, you're high level. I get it, right? Because you need a bit of downtime because you've been dieting pretty hard and your body's very depleted. But I know I've personally got clients who, if in fact, I'm going to use one person in particular, they probably won't watch it, but it's a female, and she did a competition. She came third. She was dieting for a fucking long time. And she said, Ryan, I'm going to have a month to myself. I'm going to enjoy some stuff, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, she came back to me. So she was 46 on stage, kilos. And she came back to me at 66. Right?
Yeah.
And this is a big problem, because then off season couldn't start because she was so we had to diet her back down to 55 before we even began again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
is that a first prep?
Yes, yeah.
So that's a factor.
When you work out like that as a percentage of her body weight, it's crazy. It was like she put on 40% of her body weight.
Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, I think, like you say, it would be different for a bikini girl, because I'm not over my off-season weight at the moment, and a lot of it is water, so it will just filter off over the next sort of weeks. But it's just that I don't want someone to say, this is what you've got to do. You've got to have some sort of control. So, it can be a calorie control. You can say, instead of having 100 grams of rice in 3 of your meals, you have 80 grams of rice, which will allow me to have an ice cream later on. So I do think that you do need to have some sort of structure into it, but an actual, just the phrase reverse dieting. If anyone says diet to me after a diet, I just want to go F off. Do you know what I mean? That's really the thing. I think, obviously, I've seen a few people go tits up massively. One guy that I prepped years ago, he's literally never got back in shape for years. He was watching. Yeah, he's still now. He just lost the love for it, just wanted to eat, and just never got back into it. Whereas I know myself, I just get bored of it pretty quick. Yeah. I'm already not as bothered as I was.
I think when you talk about the term reverse dieting, it's more like a coaching tactic or that coaches use to kind of draw clients. Now, I mean, everything's got to have a term. It's got to be put in a certain way. You can't just say, you can't just simply put it simply. It's got to be scientific,
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's everyone trying to have a USP in it. Everyone's trying to be something when actually, I'm a firm believer of, after a show, you should just let someone do what they want, for at least a few days, at least a week. I think it's it does your mind the world of good. And I'm the same as you, Kelvin. If someone put me on a reverse diet, I'd be like, nah. I fucking worked really hard. I'm fucking depleted as hell. Give me a little bit of time, a little bit of breathing space. You know what I mean?
I think it's that mental break, because that's what's fatiguing as much as anything. It's the mentality of clock watching, doing it. Everything's on the clock. Everything you're clock watching for every meal. Everything is is based around your food time and your training. It's just to go, do you know what? If I'm hungry, I'm just going to eat something. If I'm hungry an hour after I've had a meal, I'm going to eat something. But then I might not be hungry for 5 hours after that because I've had 2 meals in one almost. So it'll balance it out over the day. There's only so much you can eat, but it's just having that freedom, because when you're going to have to turn that switch on to be strict again, if you've been too strict during an off season or during whatever you want to call it now, a reverse diet of like not being on a diet but just slowly going back up, you're not going to be able to turn it back on when it really counts.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know about you boys, but like when I've dieted, one of the worst things is not even hunger. Hunger's there, but it's more I'm not able to sleep properly. My attention span, literally, I've got like a 30-second attention span on anything. And it's just what I need is, as you just mentioned, is mental respite more than anything else. Do you know what I mean? Do you find the same, Chad?
Yeah, for me, it's more, especially the last couple of diets I've done, it's more just like being tired. You know, when you're just like drained, you're just like, just got no energy. That's the energy lack. That's the worst part.
Yeah, I guess that's bad as well. I find that it's related to lack of sleep. So certain drugs that are in also hinder your sleep. And when your sleep's hindered, your recovery's hindered. When your recovery's hindered, it's all just a fucking downward spiral, you know?
Have you ever tried keeping certain things out that would affect your sleep? Because I did that 2018 when I did my pro card. And I found I got to a point, so no tren, no clen, no T3, up until about maybe I want to say 3.5, 4 weeks before my first show, which might have been 6 weeks before winning pro card. And my sleep was shit anyway. So I thought, well, I might as well just put them all in because I can't sleep anyway. It doesn't matter.
I think what it comes down to is when you get to that body fat, that lower body fat, your body's it's just a natural response to go and find food. It's just that's what it comes down to. Like, yeah, the trend's not helping, but more than anything, it's just the natural response.
I think I've been guilty of that in the past. I blame poor sleep on trend, but actually it's just you're fucking, you know, you've been dieting for a while. You've lost a lot of body weight.
But have you ever used trend in the off season?
Yes.
Yes.
And did you sleep okay?
Yes.
I never use the same dosage.
Hey, that's a fucking good point. It's a fucking good point.
That's exactly the point I came to.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't seem to be related. It's the hunger, isn't it? It's the hunger and energy kind of.
I also think as well, if you're as dedicated as we are and thinking about it, it's hard to mentally switch off. It's like from the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed, I'm thinking about the show, posing, what I'm going to pose to, especially towards the end. Maybe I've learned to switch off a little bit at the beginning, and just because I don't tell people I'm dieting often, I'll start a prep and I'll be 4, 5, 6 weeks in, and no one will know until one day I'm training in the gym and someone will be like, "Shit, you've got leaner." Like it's just out of nowhere, because I don't like telling people. Because the minute you tell people you're dieting, the minute you have a bad day, well, God, you're in a mood because you're dieting. Oh, you're dieting, are you? Like that.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah, like as soon as you say, like, so my girlfriend, every time she knows I'm on trend, if I'm then angry, she's like, "Oh, trend." I'm like, "Oh,
I get that."
No, you just pissed me off.
I know you're a twat. Like, come on. It's nothing to do with that. Like, I had anger issues when I was younger, like in school and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing to do with trend.
How many times you start trend and you don't tell her? Like, she don't even fucking know, and she's like, "Oh, I bet you're like such and such," and I'm like, "I've been like," and I'll say, "Oh, I'm starting trend now," and then that will happen, and I'm like, "I've been using trend for the last like 8 weeks."
Yeah, you didn't even fucking know. You didn't even
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, do you know it's that thing, you know, when you're younger and your mum says stop showing off in front of your friends? You know, and it's so annoying. When she's like, "Oh, it's the trend kicking in," I'm so fucking angry, but then
that makes you angry.
Then you're playing right into a hand. Fuck's sake. Shit, yeah. But yeah, right. Let's get a little conclusion on it. We'll move on to the next one. Reverse dieting, I think it's got a place, but for a lot of heavyweight bodybuilders, I can't see it like. I can't see it.
Yeah, it's more the terminology. I think like you said before, it's the terminology thing that everything's got to have that USP. Everything's got to have its special thing. Just don't be a twat. Have a little bit of what you want, and and don't put 40% of your own body weight on. That would be a start. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that would be me going from 100 kilos to 140. That's a pretty impressive fucking game.
I would be quite happy with that, to be honest. No, I think that's it. Basically, people need to just have a bit of restraint. You know what I mean? Just use a bit of initiative. You don't need someone to spoon feed you. I think, Chadley, I heard you say that on the last podcast. Like, you know, having a client doesn't mean I'm spoon feeding you. Like, have a bit of fucking initiative. You know what I mean? So, yeah, exactly that, man. Right, so we move on to your next one, mate.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'd like to put the 90s in Room 101, although even I think the best music was then, the best football was then, and all that sort of stuff. But I think the problem with it is, it's the people that are stuck in the 90s who just like, that's the best, that's the greatest, there's nothing else, we did it better than everybody else is not as good as us. And it's just like, get over it. You've had your time. Now it's time for someone else. And, you know, everything moves forward. Now, you know, sometimes some things are better 10 years ago. Sometimes there's a bit of a slump in the level. But if you look at the Olympia this year, now, okay, there's no Ronnie Coleman, but as we discussed before, Ronnie was getting slated when he was winning for having the bubble gut and for having this, that, and the other. He's only remembered now as the greatest of all time after he's retired because everyone appreciates it. But if you look at the top 10 Olympia this year in the open class, probably Rami's still favourite and going to be first or second. But from second to 10th, anybody could get second to 10th. Anybody, any of those 12 guys, 10 guys that are behind where Rami is. So you got Bonac, Sampson, Nick Walker, loads of them. Hunter, Hinde. There's loads of them to name. Won't bore everyone naming them all, but anyone could play second up to 10th. I think Rami will either be first or second because he's a reigning Mr. Olympia, so that's usually predetermined unless he comes in absolutely awful, and even then he'll probably get second. But everyone else is interchangeable massively depending on who comes in the day, and that's probably never happened.
So we had this. No, it was just down the gym. There was a guy, and he might watch this because he was on. It was Ewan, who we had on before, right? So we had a chat, and he was saying how bodybuilding's taken a massive decline, both amateur and pro, from like the early 2000s to now. So I actually went onto Wikipedia and we done a side by side, and we did a versus like then to now. To be honest, there were some like who's who. Like if you think of the early 2000s, right? You had Lavroni, Chris Cormier, even Flex Wheeler, Somebody had gone by then. Gustavo Dexter.
Yeah, you had a lot of decent guys. Yeah.
Fidel was about 2005, I think.
It was a bit of a who's who of fucking bodybuilding. Like, so I can see.
But there was only five. Like I don't think they were interchangeable as they are now. I think, like, I'm not saying they're all as good. I mean, if you look at Phil Heath at his best would still win this year's Olympia. Ronnie Coleman would still win this year's Olympia. So the top guys maybe aren't as good, but the strength and depth is as good as it's been.
Well, I think basically what you just said earlier off camera as well is that people appreciate shit more when it's gone.
Yeah, nostalgia.
So can you imagine what people are going to say in 2035 about this year?
Yes,
they're going to be like, "Wow, fucking hell!" Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think I agree, mate. The depth of this lineup is absolutely mental.
And you've got to remember, you've got a lot more pros. There are a lot more people doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that will factor in. There's like what 35 guys.
There's 37 have qualified, I think.
37 have qualified. They go.
Well, Kelvin's classic. How many's in classic?
-1.
Yeah, you missed out by a point.
Not even a point. Like Poland yesterday, they were going to go through on yellow cards. That's how I went out on fucking yellow cards. Wasn't even a point, was it? It was they split the tie on. It said initially they were going to split the tie on best placings, which to me, the best placing other than first, which is automatic qualifying, is second. So I'd calculated that I'd got 3 seconds to the other guy's 2 seconds. But then they came back and said, yes, but one of his seconds was at a bigger show with more people than your second. So that's why we selected him. So that was when it got selected on.
Pro shows are tiered, aren't they? There's like tier 1, 2, 3, and 4, I think.
There's only one tier 1, that's the Arnold Classic. There's a couple of tier 2. I did one, Pittsburgh, New York. And then there's probably 6 or so tier 3s, and the rest are tier 4.
And he got one in the tier 3, did he?
I got a second in tier 3. I think he might have got a second or a third. I can't remember if it was a second or a third at a tier 2 show.
shit. So for people watching, to make that clear, Kelvin was fucking this close to being at this year's Olympia. This close. How do you feel about that, mate?
Yeah, I mean, gutted at first because especially I had the opportunity to go to Florida and do the last qualifier. I'd spoke to the IFBB about trying to sort of confirm how the tie was going to be split, and they didn't confirm or deny it, or maybe they hadn't decided how they're going to split it yet, because the way it's worded is open to interpretation. So I did kind of know that, and when they explained the permutations of it, it made sense, and I couldn't argue against it. But if I'd known that was the permutation, I would have flown out to Florida and at least had it in my own hands to get a 5th place or better, which would have, any place would have got me to the Olympia. And to put it in perspective, the guy that won in Florida, I beat twice in America earlier in the year. Now, he did come in better, and perhaps my physique was struggling towards the end. But I do think, realistically, I would have certainly been in contention of top 5. And like you say, if you go and you get beat, then, you know, fair enough, you hold your hands up. But because I thought I was already in, that was a bit wounded.
Are you going to try and do the early qualifiers to try and get a qualification for next year?
No, I was considering Tunisia, which was last Sunday, but my head fell off a little bit after getting that news. I think I was in the pizza shop about 10 minutes after. In fact, do you know what? I didn't even want anything to eat. I didn't even know what I wanted. I felt like empty. I didn't feel upset or angry. I just felt numb. I didn't know how to feel. It was just weird. So, but after probably 36 hours, I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe I've got another year in me. Maybe other people have said, oh, why are you retiring? The only reason I was going to retire is because I felt like once I'd reached the Olympia, I've got no sort of delusional aspect that I'm going to get in the top 10 because the standard is just crazy and I'm coming towards the end. So how much I can improve is probably limited compared to someone who's 26, 27, 28. But I do still feel like I've got the potential to place, to win a show. So maybe I wasn't meant to get there on points, and maybe I'm meant to win a show next year. But it won't be one of the early ones because I do feel like some downtime with the family, and also trying to, like I did say, get some feedback from some of the judges and trying to make some small improvements in certain areas. So it's not necessarily banging on 10 pounds because I couldn't do that anyway because I'm near the weight limit. But I could probably add a couple of pounds on and get myself still down to the weight and then feed back up to be where I need to be. But just making small improvements in the areas that were pulled up on. And you know, maybe, as always.
What is it that you need to improve? Or what would you told that you need to improve?
Just probably lats, like back. So a bit more thickness to the lower lats. You could always do a bit more on your arms, especially in that class. I do feel like I definitely can improve my vacuum and my waistline control because it's not something that I really focused on as when I was doing open bodybuilding as an amateur, because my waist was smaller than everybody else's in class 1. So but now almost that strength has become a weakness in the sense of these guys are right tiny waisted. So you know, probably wearing a waist training band throughout the year and doing the vacuums all the way through the off season and really pulling that in tight is 2 things. You can pull an inch off your waist. It's like putting 2 inches on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Do you
Ryan, can you do a vacuum?
No.
Can you not?
No. Even when I'm
tried?
Yeah, even in prep. But to be fair, I've never tried properly, you know what I mean? But even in prep, no way. And funny enough, even like as much as my waist isn't small, but in the open category, my waist is kind of small. Because a lot of guys are kind of blocky, right? And I'm not that blocky. So
especially because you got a really good midsection, you got like the abs.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I've just never really tried.
I mean, even if you're not going to pull the vacuum for a pose, it just does help with your actual pose and the control of the midsection. And when you're transitioning from pose to pose, especially in classic, because the weight limit is there, there's less to sort of distinguish it because we're all of a similar size. You know, different people have got different shapes, muscle bellies, blah blah blah. But obviously, because it's limited, if you can hold that waist in as you transition through the poses and present that look of classic every second you're on that stage, it can be the difference between first and second.
Yeah, I mean, what would you say to the effectiveness? Because clearly it doesn't sound like you've used it before, but you know them waist trainers. Because it was a bit controversial if they work on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think it helped me. I did use one, and I had a large one. Obviously, I was getting leaner, so it would get smaller. I had a large one, then a medium one, and then that was too big. And now I've actually been using, I put them on the other day. You know the bands that they're using for the glutes, so you push out. So I've got a really thick one on the lower part of the waist, and then moving up. And I tell you what, my breathing, it's hard to breathe because you're having to breathe through your diaphragm, not through your stomach. So it's teaching you to breathe through your diaphragm. And I went out for a walk and I was out of breath. Yeah. So it's teaching you to hold yourself in the right position. It's got to have an effect of pulling you into a degree, because at the end of the day, the reason people have got big waists, I don't think it's anything to do with growth hormone or insulin and all that crap. It's just the volume of food. So you're expanding from the inside, pushing it out. So if you've got something pulling you in from the inside, at least it's going to do is stop it getting bigger.
If you look at most bodybuilders who like continue on into like maybe the early 40s and stuff, typically their waist is burnt out a bit. They start to lose their proportions, right? Years and years of eating food, years and years and years. And
I think it's a digestive strain as well, because your digestion, like everything else, will get strained. So you can digest it 25, 30, 35. But the guys that last longer are not the big eaters. Dexter was never a big eater.
Yeah, I was just about to say,
and he lasted a long time.
Some people can get away with growing on lowish, relative food. And that's the genetically gifted, and that's going to benefit you in the long run, isn't it?
So with the waist trainer, would you wear that just for cardio, or would you do it?
I'd probably pretty much wear it as much as you can throughout the day. And I have done it with other clients as well. I've had other clients that have had really good midsections in terms of abdominal development, but it's too big. And like I say, it definitely can make a difference. At the very least, it'll teach you to breathe properly and pose better.
Do you know what? I've never thought about it until now. You've mentioned it. It's never even been on my mind. But I think I'm going to get one and try it when I diet down.
Yeah.
It definitely helps with your diet.
But can I ask as well, because this is something that plagues me, like in the off season. Maybe it does with you, Chad, as well. But because you're a classic guy and being a pro, do you worry? Like right now, as I'm sitting here right now, I can feel my belly, like I'm relaxed, and I feel like my belly's going outwards.
Yeah.
Is this something you think about quite a lot, being a classic guy? Is this on your mind a lot?
Not so much, because I've dieted down, my waist has come back down again. So there has been times where I've been in the off season, and I have this issue with girls who want to bulk up. I'm like, look, you're gonna feel full because you're eating, so your waist isn't gonna be as tight. But what you've got to remember, it's not fats, but mentally, especially women, want to feel empty, especially want to have that flat stomach. So it's hard for them to transition to eat, to feel full, because you feel fat, even though you have you can be as ripped as you want. You have a massive meal and you're going to feel like your belly's sticking out. And it probably will initially because you've just had a lot of food. Yeah. But essentially you haven't put fat on. Yeah. So it's the same thing as like, as long as you're not overeating to a degree, like I suppose the volume of food per portion would be more important than the volume of food throughout the day, because your body's had a chance to sort of digest it. Yeah. So if you're overeating in individual portions, especially I see these people having 1,000 grams of carbs post-workout, a whole box of cereal and 5 fucking bagels with jam on. I'm like, wow, mate, you ain't getting that waist back in. Not a chance. Because you just, once you stretch something too far, it ain't, it's classic band. Once you stretch something too far, it ain't coming back. So you have got to be careful of it.
This is definitely something that I think about. Ultimately, I'm putting on body fat, right? When I feel my lower back, like right now, I've got body fat there, and I've grown that in the last, few months. So I know that I'm in a surplus. Like I have to be, right?
Yeah.
I worry quite a lot that I'm not eating enough, because I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like this class 1 open bodybuilder mentality. I just feel like I've got to constantly be eating. But
I think that comes from certain individuals who are just pushing food.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave Palumbo was the worst one.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and he put size on by all means, but at the end of the day, I think, you could argue maybe his physique was better when he was a little bit small and his waist was a little bit tighter. I mean, he even called it Palumboism, didn't he? Because he obviously swelled his waist that much. He was a massive guy, but you need to be aesthetically pleasing.
It's like his arms got shorter and his legs, I don't know. It's weird.
Because but once you widen that torso, it's all an illusion, isn't it? Yeah. So you're ruining that illusion completely.
Yeah.
So that's the same as JP. That's he always says that. He always says like he ruined his waist essentially.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, that's what I would have suggested as well. I mean, again, lots of muscle, but once you're in a calorie surplus, how fast you can grow muscle is probably more dictated by genetics and maybe to a lesser degree drugs. Okay, so if your genetics are limited, it doesn't matter how much food you eat, you're just going to get fat. You're not going to build muscle. So finding the optimum amount of food, which is it's impossible to be perfect with it, but if your optimum amount of food to grow was 300 grams of protein and 4,500 calories, you could go 320 and 4,700 just to make sure you're there. But if you're doing 500 grams of protein and 6,000 calories, the rest is just making you fat.
Yeah.
And extending your waist. So once you've gone past the point of optimal growth, you've gone past it. It's still bad.
Mate, that's a really good point. I've got so many clients. I'm sure you both have as well. They want to see the scale go up, like for example, a kilo a week, right? So let's say they go up a kilo a week for 20 weeks, 20 kilos. How much of that?
Well, no one's getting 20 kilos. No one's getting 20 kilos of muscle in a year, let alone fucking.
Exactly. But trying to explain to someone that you want to do it slower, sometimes it's like falling on deaf ears. You know what I mean?
And then when you do get fat, it takes double as long to get in shape. So then it almost defeats the purpose because you're going to have to spend that time in a deficit that you could have potentially put in a surplus, just growing a little bit small, like less.
Yeah, and maybe the extent of the diet means you lose new muscle anyway, because to solidify that muscle, you probably need to be at a weight for, I don't know, at least 3 to 6 months to then go, right, this is muscle that is on me now. Because we could, if we dieted now, me and Ryan, there's only so much muscle we can, and yourself, there's only so much muscle you can lose after training for 15 years, even if you absolutely starve. But if it's new muscle, you've only just gained it, you're going to lose it a lot faster. So, I mean, getting there slower and staying there a bit longer and dieting for 10, 12 weeks, rather than dieting for 20 weeks and going 0 carbs and 3 hours of cardio a day, you're just pulling yourself down. And how many people have bulked up to be heavier than they've ever been before and then dieted down to be lighter than they were last time?
Hey, can I ask your opinion on this? I saw it the other day and I thought it was quite a good thing to ask. 2 different methods of dieting, right? It's quite basic, but I'm going to break it down this way. One method, from day one of your diet, you go hard. You go like you bring the deficit right down. You like go as fast as you can, because at that point you've got more body fat, therefore you've got more energy, therefore you're going to feel better. Or option number 2, you go slower to try and preserve muscle, and then at the point when you feel like it's necessary, you drop it like hard. So you got one way, like you're basically front loading the diet or back loading the diet.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see any other way. I suppose this is one of my points before about there's only one way, but for me, there's only one way in that circumstance, and that's you start doing as little as possible to lose what you need to lose. So if you need to be 4,200 calories doing 10 minutes of walking a day to drop 2 pounds a week for the first 5 weeks, then do it. Great, because it's going to get hard at some point. There's no point making it hard from day one. It's going to get hard eventually.
And you, Chad?
Yeah, the same way. Yeah, because I think there's only so much body fat you can drop. Like, just because you're in a 3,000 calorie deficit doesn't mean you're going to drop 6 pounds of body fat.
No.
Yeah, I'm really glad to hear this because, Chad, our favorite guy, well, our favorite group. Who's our favorite group? Coaches.
Well, the Physique Collective.
Yeah, the Physique Collective put up a video about 3 or 4 weeks ago, basically saying that if you front load it, it's better, right? So you've got more energy, you've got more fat reserves, so go as hard as you can at the beginning. You know it makes sense. And I was like, yeah, but it doesn't.
Yeah. I can understand the logic of that, and that is true. That it is easier to diet on lower calories when you've got more fat reserves, but then you're going to put the food up when you get lower. No, fuck. So that's just, it might make sense for the first 6 weeks. And if you were doing it like a recomp diet for 4 weeks, then it makes perfect sense. But if you're trying to get skull-faced, ripped to shreds, then it makes no sense whatsoever.
Hey, hold on a minute.
You're probably talking about the aggressive fat loss. That's like a thing now. We're going to do an aggressive fat loss phase.
Is it another term? Is it another fucking?
That's a thing. That's a thing. Aggressive fat loss. Yeah, that's a thing.
Well, basically, it doesn't really make sense because let's be honest, right? It's bodybuilding, yeah. It's not how fucking little can you eat competition. It's fucking like what are you going to lose
thinking that
when you go too hard? What are you going to lose? You're going to sacrifice muscle. So why the fuck are you going to go super hard to sacrifice the muscle that you've only just put on? And as you said, Kelvin, it's muscle that you have yet to solidify. So as soon as you start dieting, it's gone. It's fucking.
Well, not only that, but if you put yourself in a 2,000 calorie deficit, your training is going to be shit. Which, you know, if you're like part of the physique collective, they don't train hard anyway, so that's fine. But for the rest of us, you know, we got to train hard. We're not pulling, you know, 7 plates off the floor on a 1,500 calorie diet. So
I've never pulled 7 plates off the floor. I've got to be honest. Maybe one at a time. I'll put them on the bar.
Well, excuse me. Yeah, but it's like to me, it just doesn't make any fucking sense. Why the fuck would you do that? It's like, as I say, it's especially with today's modern standards. Like today's bodybuilding is all about fucking fullness, right? It's bringing fullness. It's but more so in the pro ranks, but still, you know, like coming in like fucking peeled out your mind, but you know, stringy.
I think genetics is a big factor too. So Ryan, like yourself, you're someone that responds like really quick. So you pull 1 meal out and you're losing 5 kilos. Now imagine if you were to slash your food from 7,000 to like 3,000, you're gonna lose muscle 1,000%.
Yeah, no, exactly. And anabolics help to preserve it, but ultimately you are going to lose, right? Well, yeah, just on that. So I've been ill for the last 2 days. That's why my fucking voice is a bit weird. But yeah, so I haven't been able to eat my full diet, and I'm 10 pounds down in 2 days. For fuck's sake! Yesterday I had 5 meals, and today I've had 3, and I'm 10 pounds down already. It's like for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
So that goes to show my shit building genetics, but yeah.
Another question, Kelvin, that we always speak about on the podcast is strength. How important is that to getting bigger?
Relative to the individual, because I know loads of people that can bench press a ton more than me, and they've got shit chests. So it's relative. Obviously, if you no, I wouldn't say that.
You got a way better chest than me, mate.
And I bet yeah, go on.
But it's one of them. Like obviously, if you get strong, with all things being equal, it's like doing a test, but you're changing all the other variables. So to say that you can bench press more than someone, it's like, yeah, but what are the reps? How many reps? Because that's the most basic thing. But okay, what's the speed of the reps? What's the time and attention? What's the range of motion? And all these things come into play. So just because you're benching 100 for 10, bouncing it off your fucking chest, locking your arms out on every rep, doesn't mean jack shit. You know, whereas somebody who's doing it for 10 reps with a controlled 3-second negative, 2-second positive, or whatever you want to do, then it's a different exercise altogether. You know, just opening your elbows out to actually stretch your chest and take it into a full range of motion instead of closing your arms off and pressing through your shoulders and triceps. I mean, so it's muscle activation. So if you can lift more through that muscle with the same time and attention and the same everything else, and of course, a stronger muscle will be a bigger muscle. But lifting more doesn't equate to more muscle, which is one of the other points is illegal lifting that I'm going to definitely throw into room 101, because lifting more doesn't produce more muscle. Executing more weight through the target muscle will equal a bigger muscle.
So strength is fairly genetic. You can agree on that, right?
Everything's genetic. How fast we can run.
But meaning that, say, some people are genetically stronger or get stronger easier, have an easier time getting stronger.
Yeah.
So
well,
say me and Ryan are fairly strong. Yeah. So let's say that we can hammer and climb 5 plates aside. If we were then to having the ability to control 5 plates aside, would we then benefit from going down to 2 plates? Because if we're naturally that strong, so I always say this to clients, like clients are like, oh, my strength's not really going up. I'm like, look, the thing is, being strong is kind of like genetic. Like for me, getting strong, sometimes that's like not a good thing, because being stronger, you batter your CNS a lot more. Being stronger is actually like counterproductive to bodybuilding. Like ideally, you don't want to be strong, because if you get too strong, you get more chance of getting hurt. But if you then have to kind of work with that strength because you have it, does that mean, you know, using less would, you know, result in less weight, less muscle?
Yeah, I probably would agree with that. If you purposely lifted less, But then again, I mean, 5 plates and 2 plates is a big drop. But maybe if you drop down to 4 plates and you actually slow the repetition, it depends how you feel. If you're getting off that 5 plates and you're just feeling tired, but if you're getting off that 5 plates and your chest is pumped and full and popping, and you've got all that stimulation into your chest, then that's grooving. But if you're not getting that, then maybe you could get more out of 4 plates and evaluating your form, your speed, your range of motion, all those other things that come into play. So it's not absolutely you lift more. It definitely isn't you'll lift more, you'll have bigger muscles. But if you can put more tension through the target area, then eventually you will build a bigger muscle.
Yeah.
Well, I think it really matters. So, Kelvin, you and I trained. We did chest, like most recent one.
Yeah.
And Kelvin's rest periods are about a millisecond. No, and I need, well, obviously I need longer. And yeah, it fucking dramatically changed. So I did the hammer incline, I think 4.5 plates. But then by the time you've done like 2, I'm ready to go again. And then like basically the rest periods meant I could only lift like fucking probably like 70% of what I was normally lifting. So my question to you, Kelvin, if you add the factor of rest periods, shortened rest periods, are you then not able to stimulate as much muscle growth by lifting less?
I think it's about fatigue through the muscles. So at the end of the day, if you're bringing that muscle to failure, however you're doing that, I think it's kind of irrelevant. So I know everyone's got this one set to failure now and then one back off set. And don't get me wrong, I like training like that sometimes. To be honest, I like doing legs like that because it's fucking damn sight easier. Because doing 10 sets of 10 tonight on gym and volume training with legs was horrible. It was horrible.
I'm glad I didn't come.
Absolutely pumped to death. No, and you know, it's horrible. So I'm not saying it's an easy way to train, but it kind of is. You know, when it's easy.
I think mentally it's
for one
easier.
set as well. Yeah, exactly.
Because it, you know, knowing that I've got to, you know, I've got to do that one set of hack squat with 8 plates aside. I'm like, right, once that's done,
I'm done.
That's done. Whereas if you know that you've got to do 4 sets that are like 80% hard, that's still mentally a lot harder to handle.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
I did gym and volume training for 18 months, and that was the most amount of stage weight I gained, especially at that level. From 2016, being on stage at about 15, maybe, what was that? 15.2 at my best to 15, sort of, I think maybe 16 stone when I won the NABBA England. Now, I may have been a slight little bit less lean. So even if you said 10 pounds rather than 12, but it was there or thereabouts in 14 months. But the gym and volume training, it was horrible. Like supersetting, squats and lying leg curls or leg press and seated leg curls, 10 sets of 10. You're getting 4 sets in, 5 sets in. And when you get fitter and get used to it, like you're using a weight that's probably 90 to 95% your 10 rep max on the first set. So the first set is hard. And you're thinking, shit, I've got 9 more to do. You've just got to switch off. We had chalk, it was the old gym, and it was just like cement walls. And there's chalk marks everywhere, like tally marks of 10 everywhere, because you forgot where you're up to. And you're like, don't, because you think you're on 6. Are we on 7 or 6? Oh, we've got to say 6, because you can't do one less. So
and then you realize actually it's 5, you've got another 5.
Yeah. So there's all tally marks on the wall. And honestly, it was boring. And it was horrible, but it worked.
So if I got this right, the way that you did it is you pick 90 to 95% of your 10 rep max.
You can't start like that in week 1. You'll never get through it.
I say what, and then you work down to what, like 80, 75, 70?
No, never change the weight. Never change
Always
the weight.
There?
Always there.
Oh, wow.
So in week 1, I did, let's say I could do, I'm not the strongest in the world, so I might be doing 105, 110 dumbbells. That's pounds, not kilos, by the way. for 10 as a maximum set. If I did 1 set. So the first week I did it, I did 80 pounds for 10 sets of 10. By 6 weeks, I was on 100 pounds for 10 sets of 10. That's how much I'd improved. So the volume of work that I could do, you think about that. So it's an extra 20 pounds in each arm for 100 reps. So 2,000 pounds extra volume over a 6-week period.
I think what it comes down to is effort. Like pick any style, because like this is always a question that I'm sure we all get asked. Like, what's the best split?
Yeah.
Or like clients, they overanalyze their splits and they're like, should I train this and should I put this lat exercise? And I'm like, look, as long as you're training hard, do like whatever you want to do. As long as you're training hard, you know, whether it's a bro split or push pull legs, or because people seem to have very quite strong views about what the best split is.
Because of who they followed, basically. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it comes down to.
Again, it's about what's trendier. Like, do you remember a load of people were shitting on a bro split? Like, it was like the thing to basically say a bro split doesn't work, and now people are kind of enjoying bro splits again.
Every single Olympian does it.
Yeah. But they're back in favor of it now.
I don't think people do. Like, I don't even know that not that many people that do bro splits.
Well, most of the pros would do like a 1 to 2 body part split.
No, I'm saying normal people.
Oh, normal people.
Like
me?
Like people in the gym. No, I do a bro split too.
Yeah, well, us.
Yeah, us.
Yeah, I way prefer it, to be honest with you. But
I do too. Yeah. It's just so much easier to know, right? I've got to do chest. And that's it.
Yeah. I've got a thing as well. Like, I just don't want to call it pull. I just don't.
No, I'm exactly the same.
I don't want to call it pull.
I call it back and biceps, even if it's like it's back and biceps. It's not pull. I don't care. You can call it, don't call it that.
I've never called it pull A or pull B, ever.
Yeah. The only time I'm pulling is in a pub. The wife doesn't watch this. It's okay.
So split-wise, then do you do a 5 or 6 day split? Both here.
Where was the 4 day?
A 4 day.
No, I don't know. Generally speaking, if I could train in perfect harmony, I would do a bro split, I think, assuming that everything's equal, and I would do 2 days on, 1 day off, 2 days on, 1 day off, because everyone's got this 7-day thing. Well, what's special about 7 days? Just because it fits into the week.
Yeah, I agree.
So when I was in lockdown, I would do shoulders and calves, legs, rest, chest and triceps, back and biceps, rest. 6 days, 4 days training with a day rest in between. So I'd have a day off after back and a day off after legs, the big ones. If you like, and I love that. But because I have to have a Sunday off to spend with the family and stuff like that, I have to do split into that week. So I do tend to train 5 days. Now, I split, and this is where, what's the best split? Well, what's the best split for you? So if Ryan needs to bring his chest up and you need to bring your arms up, then the split's going to be different. So mine is, because I'm not trying to bring my back up, I'm doing a sort of back and biceps on a Monday, chest and triceps on a Tuesday. I think legs on a Wednesday just once. And then I have Thursday off. Then Friday and Saturday, I'll do a pull workout, if you like, where I will do probably a little bit of hamstring, one for calves, one for hamstrings, and some for back.
That's called density day now.
Oh yeah, I did. It did actually make some sense that thing did. But yeah, basically, I'm putting more volume into the areas that need to be improved.
Yeah.
So, what other sport do you play once a week and get better at? So why are we only training things once a week? Now, yes, we can't train chest every single day, but for a short period, I do think you could train chest every other day, and your body would get better at recovering. And it might not grow within that 4 to 6 week period, but then you'd overcompensate. It's something called overreaching that a lot of the Olympic athletes do. Yeah, that sort of stuff, like with your carbs when you pre-contest. And then when you went back to training it once every 5 days, all of a sudden your strength might go through the roof because you're overcompensating with your recovery. So, you can't always just stick to the same principle and expect a different result. You need to try something different.
You back off other body parts.
Yes, of course. So, like, obviously, your central nervous system, if you're going to get scientific about it, going to take so much damage. So, I'm not going to do 10 sets of 10 on squats and then do 10 sets of 10 on deadlifts the next day because I'll be in the ground pretty quick. So, yes, I would back off what I would normally do to something else. So, let's say if you said, right, my quads are really good, my back's really good. So, you would train them once a week, and you might even drop the volume down on them because you're only as good as your weakest link. So if you can't bring your chest and your arms up to match your legs and your back, then you're not complete. So until you complete, there's no point going, well, I've got the best legs or I've got the best back, because you haven't got the best overall physique. And we're trying to make the best overall physique. No one's going to be perfect, and everyone's always going to have stronger and weaker points. But the closer you can get to that balanced physique, the better you're going to do on stage, in my opinion.
So you say about what other sport is there for one time a week, right? So what would you say to Dorian Yates' style, the HIIT training?
Look, at the end of the day, you know, genetics is the biggest factor in bodybuilding. And as Dave said before, you've got effort. So if you put 100% effort into any style of training, you'll get results. And if you've got elite level genetics, you'll get to the top of the sport. So we can't say that Dorian's way is the way to build muscle best, because Ronnie did it completely different, and Phil did it completely different, and Jay did it completely different. So how can one of those styles be the way if they can all do it in a different way?
Yeah, I agree on that one. I agree. I don't think that a lot of people, probably myself included, have got it in me to, you know, the HIIT style. You know, I've actually done it one time. I trained with Dan McNabb, and we did that. He took me for a leg session, and it was like the Dorian Yates style, and it was actually fucking horrendous. And I don't know if I've got that in me to do that every time I walk in the gym.
It does tax your central nervous system a lot.
That's what it was.
I enjoy that training.
In the end, it didn't feel like, and again, this is just my preference, by the way, it didn't feel like I was no longer working the muscle. It just felt like I was moving the weight for the sake of it, because like you're hanging on for dear life, like fucking, like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And to me, that's not my preferred method. I'd rather feel it, you know?
I think most people that say that, they don't do it session to session to session. They don't.
What the Dorian Yates style? You can't,
you know, like maybe he did, maybe he didn't, like, but I don't think you can do that like on a consistent basis.
Bear in mind,
even Dorian said
it was 3 times a week. 3 sessions a week, and that's it. 3 and
no, Dorian did 4.
No, he did 4 out of 6, then went to 4 out of 7 later on, I think.
Dorian was 3, and then 1 was like an accessory day, I believe. And within those sessions,
Dorian's 4, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was 4. It was back, shoulders and triceps, legs all in one because his legs were crazy, and then chest and biceps. That was his 4-day split.
Yeah.
And within those sessions, how many sets?
Well, if you're talking about working sets, you would say 4 sets on chest, 3 on biceps. That's 7 sets. And he didn't do many warm-up sets neither. And that was if I'm going to train like that, and I have trained like that. I've trained with John Hodgson like that. I've trained with other bodybuilders like that. I like that training because it is the 1 set. Let's do it. And then the force reps and stuff like that. I think even Dorian said that he didn't do them all the time. But the difference between going to failure and going to failure is mental failure and physical failure. Now, it's easy to go to failure on chest, but to go to failure on an exercise like a leg press or squats, that's where that mental capacity comes in. Because if someone puts a gun to your head, you're getting 1 more rep. On a bench press, if someone puts a gun to my head, or most people's heads, they've gone to failure. They can't press it anymore because it is physical fatigue, not mental fatigue. But when you've got 400, 800 pounds, kilos, or whatever on a leg press, sometimes you look at that weight and it's like, I don't want to do another rep because this is horrible. So it is mental fatigue.
I think it depends on the body part. So if you've got an injury on a certain body part, so chest for me, I know that I can't train chest the same way I train legs.
Yeah.
Because my legs aren't injured. Like my chest is. So I have to train at higher volume.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
That's just, you know, and that again, that's where individuality comes into the part.
I think I've got to be honest with myself. You know what you just said about like the mental barrier for leg training. I don't know if I've got it in me to fight past that every time I walk in to do legs. Like when I do legs, it's hard, but it's not like puke hard. I'm not going to make myself sick every single session. I've been sick maybe 5 times in my life.
Yeah, whereas, it's the logbook scenario, which is another thing that could potentially go into Rima 101, although it's got its place. But the problem with it becomes when that's the only thing that matters is beating the logbook. Now, when Jordan's done it, he said, look, my form has to be perfect, but not everyone's that particular. You're just going to want to beat the rep or the weight. And there's going to be days where things are a bit tight, you didn't sleep as good, or something didn't go well, you know, that day, and you're not quite there, and you're going to try and push beyond that personal best that you did before. And we all know you can't do a personal best every day, because what Usain Bolt didn't run a personal best every single day. He still won every gold medal, but he didn't run a personal best every single time he went to race. It's impossible. So how can we expect to do that? So that's when listening to your body and not having a one-way fits all, because history's proven that one way doesn't fit all, because we've just talked about all the past Olympians all trained differently. So you've got an injury or you're feeling a bit tired, why wouldn't you say train at 90% and do more volume? All the research points towards that anyway, that you can go to 1 to 3 reps short of absolute failure and still build muscle, because it's progressive overload. You don't actually need to fail to progress. You just need to lift more in a corresponding week. It might not be lifting more on one set, it might be lifting more volume, or it might be lifting more reps on a certain weight down from your maximum of 10. You might go, right, today I'm going to do 20 reps. I'm going to beat my 20 rep max, or I'm going to beat my 10 set of 10 max on this. And, you know, there's loads of different ways to skin a cat. That's as simple as it is.
I think I literally had this chat. Sorry, go on.
No, you go, mate. You go.
I had this exact same chat with a client this morning. He goes, "Oh, my RDLs, I didn't progress my set today. I'm so pissed off. Like, the weight shifted in front and I lost it." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "It's one set." And I said, "What did you do after that? Did you like back off and do another set?" "No, I left the gym pissed off." I'm like, that's what hinders your progress. That one set that just allows you to, like, gets you so pissed off that you actually leave the gym, instead of think, it's just one set, I'm just going to do another set. Or just think, fuck it, I've had a really good rest of the workout. You know, instead you actually
I used to not quite like that, but I would focus all of my session around the big three. So if it was chest, it would be around bench press. And I would almost like focus everything onto a big bench press. And then I'd almost have like a dopamine hit. And it would take me through the rest of my session. But the rest of the session was kind of an afterthought. Like, so I had my big bench press, and then the rest of it was just like going through the motions. And I remember for a lot of years I used to do that, like 18 to 23 or so. It was just, I don't know. I wish I could have that time back to, I probably wouldn't have delts and I'd have more chest if I hadn't done that, to be honest. But yeah.
Well, we used to do that, didn't we? We used to go in bench press, and then the rest of the workout's kind of half-assed.
Yeah. Definitely.
We talk about the bench, and that's...
Yeah, 100%. Everything was just centered around the big lifts, and it was like, fuck me. But right, we'll move on to your next one, mate.
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, we've kind of gone through what we've just talked about. We've literally said everything that I said, like about the overcomplicating stuff, when you know, talking about just I said, my little saying to you is, people are crossing T's and dotting I's before they've even wrote the sentence. You know, in terms of the looking at the minor details, and they're not doing anything else right. I mean, I've literally had people saying, you know, is turkey better than chicken? It's like 2 grams of fat rather than 3. I'm like, you had a pizza for your cheat meal. What the fuck difference is 1 gram of fat, mate, on your fucking chicken and turkey? Are you serious? Yeah. You know, it's like, what?
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
just what brand of intra-workout should I use? It's like, man, just
stuff like that. I mean, come on. People ask me, what's the best this? What's the best that? It's like,
especially when it's people that. Funny enough, I had this chat with a client today. Like, I said to him, look, you do this for a hobby. I said, if you're, I don't know, play golf or some shit on the weekend, you don't think, oh, fuck, I missed that ball like last weekend. Fuck. Like, no, but because bodybuilding is a 24/7 thing, people tend to like obsess a lot more about it. And you got to remember, like, this is just a hobby for most of them. It doesn't pay you money, or for most of our clients anyway. So why let it take over your life?
Yeah, some people go over the top. I think some people need to be like all in. They're very, very extreme. Like, I had a client this morning say to me, do you reckon we should just cut my carbs? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, should we just like go no carb? And I was like, why? And he was like, because I just want to get like I just want to like be lean and have abs for like next summer. I'm like, it's November.
Next summer.
Next summer.
Honestly, he said, and I was like, it's November, December, and you're already talking about 0 carbs, and it's just a weird all or nothing mentality.
But you notice that those people, they're the ones that go like this.
Yeah.
Because they fall off, because you can't maintain it.
Exactly. Yeah.
There are the sort of guys as well that I want to get bigger, and they bulk for 2 weeks, and they have that initial feeling of putting a little bit of fat on and being, like you say, feeling full. Oh, I need to get ripped. And then he'd get dieting for 2 weeks, and then he'd do that forever, and he'd never change.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think one of the worst one for guys, like women always want to be smaller, right? But with men, they constantly want to be bigger, so they just chase scale weight. forgetting what they look like, forgetting that there's body fat going on. They'll just keep being bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and they end up looking like a fucking, I don't know. Yeah,
especially now they do big enough oversized tops that.
Yeah. You know, so you can still see their delts and stuff, but then it's like the belly's like a bit looser, you know.
Personally, I think if you're a bodybuilder of any description, you should always look like a bodybuilder. I should be able to take my top off, and you should be able to take your top off, and I know you can. And people around the pool know you're a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
They shouldn't think you're a fat guy.
If they have to question whether you are or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a problem. It's a problem. But yeah, I had a that guy this morning, I was trying to explain to him, you know, like going zero carbs mean it's not just that it's going to play havoc with your mind, but it's like your training's going to go to shit. And when your training goes to shit, you're potentially sacrificing muscle. When you're not eating enough food, you're sacrificing muscle. So you end up getting this like weird skinny fat look, right? You get this, they're not lean, but they're just, there's nothing of them. So they're fat but skinny. It's this weird, like, I don't know, this weird conundrum that they're getting.
I almost think like clients or like normal people again find it harder to gain muscle than it is to actually like lose body fat. Losing body fat is actually quite easy. And I always say that to people, I'm like, look, let's say we put on 10 pounds of body fat. How long does that take you to take it off? 10 weeks at best. How long is it going to take you to put 10 pounds of muscle? Probably never.
Probably never. Yeah, well, people will think, have you heard this before? Oh, last summer I fucking did a bit of a bulk up on 10 pounds of solid muscle. And you're like, okay. Like, because the scales went up 10 pounds, they believe that it's muscle, right? And it's just like, for fuck's sake. And I feel like, as much as this, I feel like I've said that sentence quite a lot, like scales are not muscle, but it's literally not a known thing. It's not a known thing. So many people still relate the two as one. And it's fucking bizarre, mate.
I think, again, like, the scale is important and has its place, but it's when you start to like fixate on it. And I know people, I've had clients like, they're like, I weigh myself twice a day. I'm like, for what purpose?
Hey, you've got a lot of female clients as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a nightmare.
I shout at people get on the scales. When people get on the scales before and after they train, I'm like, you're a fucking dickhead.
Oh, I remember this guy in Spartans used to put on his rucksack and then get on the scales.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, coming they're like a, I don't know, like a railway worker or some shit with their fucking gear and like all their boots and fucking 6 car keys and all that shit.
1906.
Yeah.
With 13.3 this morning, mate, naked.
So they can post on social media. Kelvin, with your clients, do you have a majority males or females or a bit of everything?
It's 50-50 for personal training. Online, what was it? Probably 80-20 for men.
Which do you prefer?
Well, if I could get paid the same, I would always train people in person.
But what I mean is, which do you prefer, male or female?
Oh, right. Sorry. Is this a sexual question or a...
well, it could be if you want.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Seriously. Do you know what? Women are very, very good at following direction. They can be a little bit OTT and sort of the messaging side of things. And I suppose it's hard to generalize because people are different. I think it's a bit unfair to generalize men and women in certain aspects. I'd say once a woman sets her mind to something, you ain't fucking changing it. Like, that is one thing that I've noticed. Like, they'll literally die to get wherever they want to get if they really want it. If they don't want it, you ain't getting them there. Whereas guys can fall a little bit, like, you can push them a little bit. You can maybe, drag them there if they don't really want to get there, or, that's the other way around. But the women, once they set their mind to it, they'll just come do it. If I said to them, you're eating nothing but dust this week, they'd be like, okay.
We've had this chat around before, didn't we? Like when I said I actually prefer training women, but I think women are more adherent. Like, I have an easier time with women because I'll just say, you do this, this, and this, and they check in the week after, and majority of them are just like spot on. They've done it all. Whereas guys, they'll question you, they won't listen. And I think guys are more fun to train because you see the changes faster because of gear and whatnot. But if they're at decent level, if they're like those guys that are like the skinny fat, like type guy that always falls off and he always needs a cheat meal on the weekend, they're a nightmare to work with. I cannot be bothered to work with those people.
That is not my experience at all. That is not my experience at all. Like, for me, I've got like 95+% men always.
Oh, yeah, but the women you've had, because you've had some decent women.
A couple. But I find women.
When you have, yeah. So, and I'm sure they've all done quite well. And
yeah, I just find women quite emotional. In specific, I got one in my memory. I can't remember what I said, but I had a boyfriend call me and tell me to call her and apologize because I'd upset her, because basically I talked straight. It wasn't rude, it wasn't horrible, but yeah.
I had a client today, the other day. She asked me, she said, "Oh, like we've been dieting for like a month now. Do you reckon I can have an off-plan meal? I want a burger." I'm like, too fat for a burger.
Ooh.
I literally said that, but look, I've been coaching her for like a year and a half. So she understands. She know it's not like it's been a month. So we've got that type of relationship where I can say that and get away with it. Now you've got to know that who you can pull that off with, and you can't. You know.
Yeah. I mean, doing the one-to-one stuff that I probably do a lot more of, I would guess. Then you do learn people as an individual more, and you do get to sort of understand a little bit more about them on a personal level, because obviously in between sets you are talking for 45 minutes, because if you break it down to how long you're lifting weights and how long you train, even if you train fast, like I train pretty fast, you're probably lifting for 20 minutes at 60 in reality.
Yeah, so the rest of the time is just talking and shooting the shit.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, you definitely got to get to know someone. A lot of my male clients I get pretty close with, and you can take the piss, like in a nice way, right? It's like a camaraderie. I think I accused the girl, that one where her boyfriend called me. I said that she wasn't trying hard enough. That was kind of it. I just said, I don't think you're taking it seriously enough. And, you know, if you are taking it seriously, then let's fucking do it. Yeah. And I got the call. And to be honest, that was like the nail in the coffin for me, for women.
Did you tell him to fuck off?
No, I fucking felt bad. And I did. I called her.
Bro, if that were me, he would probably want to fight me.
Well, yeah, to be fair, you're way more harsh than me.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're way more harsh than me.
But it works. But it works though, because it rids you off these people that aren't serious and don't want it, and then you get to keep the decent ones.
Yeah,
I think as well, if you're not open for a bit of criticism in this sport, you're in the wrong game. You're absolutely in the wrong game. You know, I openly have gone to people to be criticised by people that you respect, that you know are only going to tell you you're good, but you're in the right place if you're in the right place. Sometimes I might not even agree with their principles of how they diet, how they train, or whatever else, but you know you're going to get an honest appraisal of where you are. And at the end of the day, if you're not willing to accept that, you're never going to improve. You should be your own worst critic, really. Although I do think people get too high on that, because you also need to pat yourself on the back sometimes. And I think a lot of people don't do that. They're always being too negative on themselves. But you need to take criticism, and you need to learn from that and take it on board and be better. So if someone says to me, I'm not trying hard enough, I'll know deep down I'm not trying hard enough. I needed you to tell me. I'm going to be pissed off for a second, but then after about 5 minutes, I'm going to go, he's right, though, because I could be doing this, this, and this. And I'm not.
Do you feel like it's a skill that you've learned, you know, like basically taking criticism? Because you've been in the game a long time. You know, when you're at the arse end of prep and you're a little bit sensitive?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you feel about it then?
Yeah, I mean, you can be, it depends if it comes off and you're prepared for it. So if I came and trained with you, and like next year we were going through the prep, and you said to me, you're not where you were last year, I'd already know that in my own head anyway. It might still like affect me, but I needed to hear that, because if I'm 3 weeks out and you tell me I'm not where I was, then I need to be where I was. It's as simple as that. So it might hurt at the time. I suppose it's sometimes when you're not asking for criticism, when someone says something and you're not ready for it, and then you instantly react in a negative way. Whereas if I go to you, I'm going there because I want you to tell me the truth. I don't want you to bullshit me, because if you bullshit me and then I go and get smashed, well, it's not your fault, but you could have helped me and you didn't.
Yeah,
I think timing matters as well. So if it's 2 weeks, if it's 4 weeks out, that's good. That's fair enough. But if
the night before the show,
2 days out, if someone comes up to you at 2 days out and you're like, bro, you're fat, like, that doesn't help.
It can mess with your head for sure, definitely.
It needs to be constructive.
Yes.
And it needs to be timely. So if someone's off, and I've seen people off in a day, and I've been like, fuck you, no, why did you ask me? Because I don't want to fucking now tell you. And you don't know what to say. But if you come and ask me 4 weeks from time, I'm going to be like, mate, you need to lose 10 pounds or whatever it is. And you can like it or lump it, but I'm telling you now, or you can find out on the day. It's up to you.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, that would crush. I feel like over the years, I'd like to think I'm a bit better. I remember for my first ever show, I was in a pure gym and I had a stringer on. You know, when you're fucking younger, you wear stringers, no problem at all. Like now I'm bigger, I wear less. Like I never wear that shit. But anyway,
I don't even own a stringer.
Mate, but when I was younger and smaller, I fucking anyway. Right, so I was in pure gym and I had a pump. I was like a week out from my first ever show, grouchy as fuck, and some guy went, "All right, mate, you got a comp coming up?" And I was like, "Yeah, like this weekend." He went, "You got to be ready in time." Right? And he didn't mean it like horribly, right? But do you know what I did? Do you know what I fucking did? I literally whipped off my vest in front of him in the middle of the gym, and I started, and I went, "What do you reckon? Do you reckon I'm going to be ready?" Like in an aggressive manner. Anyway, I was
take the pants off as well.
No, I just took my top off, and I was like, "What do you reckon?"
Pretty sure. Or was that a petrol station that time?
Was another time. Anyway, that was really embarrassing, and I sent him a message like that later that night. I was like, "I'm so fucking sorry," but basically, it's just the emotion got the better of me in that moment, and yeah, I don't know. It's hard. Like it's easy now to say it, but in the moment, oh my god.
What was the other one? Was that in town or something like that? Remember you telling me?
Yeah, so Kelvin, I think it's the petrol station one, right?
Yes.
Yes. Right, I was in a petrol station. I was wearing shorts that were down to my knees. And this woman who always sees me in there, she was like, "Oh, you she goes, you forget to train your legs. Like your legs look a bit smaller." Like, but she wasn't being ironic. She wasn't trying to be funny.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake. Anyway, there was a queue behind me, and I literally stood back, pulled my shorts down, and started flexing my quads in front of her. Oh my god! Right. Anyway, and she went, "Okay." Anyway, I paid for the petrol. I went to my car, and I literally just went, "Oh, fuck."
I could actually picture you doing that as well.
Yeah, and sometimes I hate parts of my personality because I hate that I'm like that. I wish that I was a bit more just like chill, like, oh,
You've gotten better.
Everyone gets that from time to time, though. I mean, I think over time you learn to not take on board what normal people say, because how they say it, they'll go, if I'm getting lean and ready for a show, they'll go, "Fucking hell, mate, you've lost weight." Now, when you're fucking 25 and you've done a few shows, like, "Fucking hell, massive, what are you talking about? I'm 15 stone and ripped, blah, blah, blah." What they actually mean is you look lean and ripped, because that's how normal people would say a compliment. You've lost weight. To us, it's like stabbing you in the eye.
You've lost weight. That's the last thing you want to hear.
No, I have lost weight, yeah, but it's all fat. I'm fucking shredded.
Oh, fuck. That's killer. They have no idea the fucking ramifications that has.
Now I just laugh. Now, like, I'm down about 20 pounds. And then they'll go, "Oh, but you look really good," because you've given that response. Yeah. Whereas if you've already reacted, you've fucked it. You've got to just go, I've lost 20 pounds, to be fair.
Oh man, so
like when your mum's like, she goes like, "You look a bit smaller," and you're like, "Fuck."
For fuck's sake.
My mum's pretty good, actually. She'd know not to say that.
Well, yeah, I feel like it's like, even you and me, Chad, over the years, like, I've lashed out at you. You said stuff before, and I've lashed out, and then immediately after, I'm like, it's fucking embarrassing, mate. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, I know that if I wanted criticism, I can come to you and I can actually get honest. Yeah. Because it's not going to be. I know that you even like, say if I'm behind, you're gonna say you're behind. You're not gonna lie to me, but you're not gonna say it in a in a bad way. When people do it to kind of get to you in a so.
Well, I think it's good that we have this chat, and even Kelvin, like let's say next year you do, and we do train, which I'm sure will happen on prep. Like now we've had this chat, we know we can be honest with one another, and you're not allowed to be annoyed. and I promise you, I won't do it in my fucking weird episodes as well. I promise.
Especially bodybuilders, we're so sensitive about little shit. That's like,
yeah, we're a bunch of bitches.
Yeah, man, it's like weird. We pose and get judged like as our hobby, and then when people judge us, we're fucking fuming. Like,
that's it. You're in, like I say, if you're not willing to get criticism, you're in the wrong spot.
100%, mate. 100%.
Ever put a top on? Like, say, like one time, my missus, like, she's like down here, I'm like getting ready upstairs. I put this top on. I'm like, "Oh, it looks really good." I come down. She's like, I'm like, "How does it look?" She goes, "You look quite slim in it." I was just like, "Fuck." Never worn this top. I have not this. I've not worn this top since.
No, no way. Anything that's slimming, fuck off.
Yeah, a white top. It was a white top as well. Of all things.
No, yeah. Normally they make you look really wide.
Never worn it.
Yeah, that's getting burned. 100%. 100%.
Anything that makes you look smaller.
I remember getting a bit of criticism once, and it wasn't even. Well, it was criticism, but it was constructive in a way. And although it hurt for a brief second, I then took it on board, and we were at the WABA Worlds, and I got off stage, and I felt like I was in all right condition, but they kind of speeded the show up, and then had what I was going to have, I think steak and chips or something. Probably would normally have it 2-3 hours before I got on stage, probably 3. And then all of a sudden, it was like I just finished it, and they were knocking on the door saying, "We've been called backstage." I was like, "Shit!" So I probably was just holding a little bit of water in the stomach because I'd not digested it and stuff. Got on stage. I think I'd done. I kind of knew I'd done good enough to get into the top 6. And the good thing about what they did is they actually did judge it, pre-judging an evening show. So they didn't number you 1 to 6 in the morning. They just picked the 6 best bodybuilders, and then he judged it in the final. And he did judge it because they had us posing like shit. And I stepped off stage, and I got some compliments off a lot of the foreign guys, Italian guys, and stuff like that. Because as you know, I was never the biggest class 1 guy, but I had some shape and structure. And everyone always used to say, "You've got a classic physique." And then, lo and behold, when I'm 35, they decided to bring the classic physique class out. Why didn't you do it 5 years ago? But never mind. Anyway, so I got off stage and I had some good positive feedback on my people. I was looking good. And Roy McLean, I said, "What do you think?" And he went, "You weren't as good as you were at Britain, mate." And I was like, "Fuck, he wounded me." And he knew he wounded me. And he walked off. And I stood there for a minute and I took it and I went, "But he's not said that to be a dick. He said that because I'm not." So I walked up to him and I said, "Look, Roy, what do you think it was? Do you think I was a bit flat or a bit?" He says, "Oh, I just looked like you were just holding a bit of water, mate." I was like, "Right." So I didn't have another fucking bite to eat, didn't have another drink of water, and I had half a water tablet. 6 hours later, and you know when you get these people and they go, "Oh, I missed my peak and I was ripped and I was this and I was that and the other," and everyone, and then you're like, "Yeah, okay, mate, fucking you can't look that different." Yeah. It's short minutes at a time. And we were back in someone's room, back at the hotel, and I was like, "I hope I've got in the top 6 because I know I'm going to look 30% better." And everyone, you can see everyone was like, yeah. But they're saying they don't mean it. And I lifted my top up, I had veins everywhere, and he went, "Holy shit, what have you done?" I was like, "Well, I've just eaten before I got on stage, so that's digested now. I've had no more water or food, and I've had another water tablet." But I dropped 6 pounds, to be honest with you. I got on stage, and the first person to come up to me was Roy and Neil Cranwell, and they were like, "Wow." It was like night and day. It was like watching 2 different people. And I'd probably gone from scraping top 6 to getting second. And that was my first international show. I was absolutely buzzing.
That fucking turned around, didn't it? That bit of criticism, although it hurt, look what it did.
But it's constructive because if it had said it after the event, or when you can't do anything about it, it's. But I had 4 out of 5 hours to do something about it, so I took it, and it still hurts because we are sensitive. We're trying to look our best, but then I thought, right, what am I going to do about it? So I need to go and discuss it with that person, get that feedback, and then do something about it. And that's what I'm saying. If you're not willing to take criticism, no, you don't need to take it straight away because it's always going to affect you. But if you can sit back and go, "Okay, let's now do something with that." We're going to sit in the room and sulked and had a fucking Mars bar. That ain't going to do any good, is it?
Yeah. Well, that actually could take us on to quite an interesting one. I think people have got different opinions about it. I'd like to know your opinion. When it comes to peaking on show day, or even the day before show day, what do you feel about water manipulation, and how would you play it?
I mean, I've prepped a lot of people, and this is where I was initially against the online coaching, because you can get a lot of information out there, but there's nothing better than my eyes looking at you in person. So I always would prefer, and I've got quite a few online clients, anyone who's within shooting distance of me, I'll see in person because I can tell. I had Nathan competed this year, and literally, if he pulled his water, he just flattened out. So he was probably drinking 8 liters the day before the show, and probably drunk 3.5 liters the day of the show, and carbs. He just flattened out. I've had other people, I have to cut the water quite drastically, so I'll probably go 8, 4, 2, and then nothing on the day, just sips, and I don't flatten out as long as I have carbs. But if I have carbs and water, just blow up, just spill like crazy.
Right.
So that would probably be the two extremes. So I get it. I don't think there's a right and wrong way. You've got to see how people react to. So maybe a practice peak week, or just, somebody who holds a lot of water at night and then drops 7 or 8 pounds in the morning is someone who's dropping water weight really fast. And someone who's similar is dropping it slow. So they may need a gradual drop. Also depends on what water tablets you're using. If you're using water tablets, something like slow, like aldactone, that you're going to load up for a week, you can't cut water as well, potentially, because you will flatten out. So you've got to keep it in. Also depends how many carbs you're having, because you can't cut water and then try and carb up, because there's no transporting agent for the carbs to go from water to go into the cells, and you've got sodium manipulation, all these different things. So it really depends on quite a few factors. I wouldn't say you have to cut water, you don't have to cut water. I'd say it depends on a lot of other factors.
I think that tells you then a coach, no matter what level you're at, is a must, because at 1 week out, you ain't got the mental capacity to do that yourself.
No.
I agree.
That's where I benefited from having Martin with me at the pro shows this time, because I'm not sure how much I need a coach sort of off season or even at the start of the prep and how to get in shape. But that last week of him like just looking at me and literally making me pose for it, I was like, fuck off. Posing before every meal. I don't want to pose before every meal. But I know it did me good because I was holding my waistline better and we were having small intricate details. And sometimes you go, look, your chest is a bit full. And I look and go, oh yeah, it is. And I'm not even being that analytical of myself at that time, because you're tired and you're thinking, and I'm scared of spilling over. And I was able to come in, I think I was, what was that? I think at the first show in America, I was about the second and third show when I got second place. I was 216, 217. I think in Prague I was 223 when I got second. And I was just as lean and I was full. And then I was a bit heavy in Alicante, maybe about 226. And then probably somewhere in the middle of those two was about right. But unfortunately, the standard that show was just phenomenal. So it didn't really do much good. But if I'm just comparing myself to myself, then I believe that sort of 223, 224 was much better than the 217 that I presented earlier in the year, and may have even won me one of them shows potentially.
So basically, having Martin there made you fuller and leaner, is what you're saying?
No, it's not so much leaner, because obviously the lean I've already got to lean, but I was able to make the most of that look by filling out to the maximum potential.
Okay, so I thought you meant as well by being fuller, it made you appear leaner at least. Or
yes, potentially, or at least I didn't lose any condition, because I'm always scared of like being a bit too full. It's not so much fat, but the water creeps in, so then it looks like you're not as lean. Or if you're too flat because the muscle's not pushing it to skin, the skin's not as tight. So it's a very fine line, and that's why you've almost got to look after every meal and everything to see what it is. Now, once I know my weight, now people don't say I don't weigh myself. It shows, especially if you're class 1 and you haven't got a weight limit. For me, I've got to weigh something on the scales on the Friday, but then it doesn't matter what I weigh, because I was actually over the weight limit on stage. So that doesn't matter as long as I make the weight on the day. But having known that 224 is about right, I would then use the scales myself to know if I'm 227, I've gone too far. And if I'm 221, well, I can take a bit more. So the look is there, but then I would use the scales as well to know if I'm, because the lighting could be different somewhere, or if I was on my own again somewhere, then there's always different methods of finding where you should be. So if I was 224 last week and looked like that, I know I can't be 227 or 221. I might be 225 or 223 and have a very, very similar look, but I need to be in that ballpark.
What when you and I competed against one another, what did you weigh then? That was 2016.
2016. At my peak, when I was at my leanest, I won the NABA Northwest at 212. I think I was probably 216 at the PCA final. I smoothed out a little bit.
216.
I'm doing 15.6
in it. 15.6.
So you're 97, 98 kilos.
Yeah.
How tall are you? 5'10".
5'11". My limit for classics 222. I won the NABA England at 224. 2017. That was when I gained the weight instead of doing the gym and volume training. And I definitely think that played a part. Well, it had to, because I didn't really change much else. I was consistent, but I was always reasonably consistent. And then I had to come down to make classic weight limit for the amateurs, which was 212. And that was probably the leanest I ever got, because I really had to come down, and I was a little flat. But straight away, as soon as I went into the pros, I was 217, because I knew, obviously, the weight limit had gone up to 222. And it was this year, again, like I say, I had the potential to be around about the 220, 222 mark. But having looked at myself and always steering on the side of coming in paper thin, dry, and ripped, I was probably coming in 217, but I probably could have pushed up a little bit and just been that bit fuller without sacrificing, anything else. Because when I was standing backstage at Prague, I don't know if other people have had that, because I think I'm very analytical with myself, but I'm not. I can be negative, but I can also see positives. So when I like Lewis, who obviously Martin also trains, being down on himself, even though he looks phenomenal. Now I don't know whether inside he feels he's all right, but he doesn't outwardly do it. But I think a lot of people can always want more from themselves, but realistically, your body can only do so much. So yeah, okay, we'd all like 10 pounds more muscle, an inch extra on our arms, an inch extra on our quads, blah blah blah. But for where I was and how I could look, I was standing in the mirror in Prague, pumping up. And I got a pump really fast, and so I knew it was right. And I was just on the verge of cramping, all striations from my quads or triceps everywhere. So I knew any less water and water tablets or anything else, and I'm going to cramp. Any more fullness than this, and I'm going to spill over. So I'm like, I can't really be any fuller, and I can't be any drier, because I'm either going to cramp or I'm going to just go past that stage and fill a little bit. Because when you're doing 5 press ups and you pumped like you've done a full workout, you're full. Because your body's so sensitive at that point. And I stood there looking in the mirror going, this is it. I'm on. If someone beats me today, or whoever beats me today, they're just bad at me. Because it's as simple as I don't think I can be any better than this. So I'm happy, because Martin's like, you're all right. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm chilled, because I've done everything I can. I've followed everything I can. I'm as good as I can. And then let's just enjoy it and see what happens.
I think that's when you know that you've done everything you possibly could have done in prep. Like you've never cheated on your diet, you've never missed cardio, because most people, how many people can say that? Most people at least.
I've got to say, I can never say that I've not cheated on my diet ever in any prep that I've ever done. I've never not cheated at least once. But then again, I don't have cheat meals. So if I have a cheat, so if someone has a cheat meal every week and they have 12 weeks a night and they have 12 cheat meals, I might have 7, but they weren't designated. So who cheated more?
Why? So how does that work for you then? So you just think in your head, fuck it, I'll have something.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm fucked, I'm feeling shit.
Yeah.
Is it maybe because you coach yourself, so you kind of just think, fuck it?
Yeah, that would be part of it, I suppose. I think I know as well to a degree, like if I've had 2 or 3 really shit workouts, if I've had a shit workout, then I've had a shit workout. But if I've had a couple back to back and there's nothing there, I tend to have a high day, but then as soon as I start eating, that's the end of that. The metabolism goes through the roof. Yeah. It starts off with like an extra 50 grams of oats and an extra 50 grams of rice to being, oh, fuck it, what else can I eat?
Ice cream.
I think because you've done this for so long, you can get away with that, because you've done it for fucking 10 years or however long you've been competing. Like someone that's their first comp, they probably should.
Yeah, of course. No, it's not coachable. It's not, and that's why I've not probably had a coach. And I even said to Martin, I said, you know what? I don't think that I'm coachable at certain points. At that last week, then that's fine. And that's when the intricate details comes in. But as long as I'm getting lean enough, and I'm like, so, I'm looking at myself. I'm doing body fat. I'll go and train with people like Ryan and other people, and I'll get feedback. So, I mean, Ryan, when did you train when it was about 4 weeks out, and then maybe when it was about a week out? So you obviously saw the difference.
Yeah.
So there you go. So, if I'd have had 2 cheat meals in that time, his feedback is the same. You've looked leaner, you're nearly there. Yeah. If I had none, I had none. But then again, how big is my deficit? Because is 1 cheat meal then taking me over a surplus for the week? I'd say absolutely not. It's one of them where you like I say, if people are designated cheat days, but if you have to have a cheat on a Saturday, maybe I don't want to cheat on a Saturday because I'm feeling good. I've had a good training session. I'm on it. But then Tuesday comes around, and I just need something to eat. I just need something to eat. Maybe my legs on Monday.
What matters is how you look on the day, right? It doesn't matter how you got there, as long as you get there in the best shape possible. What I found was when we used to coach myself is I'd kill myself through the week, and then I'd have a cheat, but the cheat would end up being like pretty fucking big. And I really feel like that helped me back quite a lot. Like, and being with Martin really reined that in.
Yeah,
like, it changed all that for me, and it just made it.
I remember you used to do like 8,000 calorie days, and you used to like put them on your stories and that 10,000 calorie days and stuff like that.
See, for me, when I'm saying I'm cheating, I've probably had a fucking oat bar on top of my rice meal, or I've had extra oats in the morning, or extra fruit, or something like that, or I've just had a couple of bits extra throughout the day. I've not, I like, if you say how many pizzas do they have during prep all year? None. And I like pizza. How many Indians do they have? None. How many Chinese do they have? None. But do they have sweet potato chips and steak when I probably should have just had steak that night? Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't call that well, I guess it's off the plan. But
anything off plan is a cheat, isn't it? But then again, it's how strict you're being on that plan.
Yeah.
And how
I think when me and Ryan say cheat, we're talking like 10,000 calories, you know? And I think, you know, you say you haven't got a big appetite, Ryan, but like, I think when it comes to dieting, you do.
Yeah. Well,
everyone does though.
Yeah, everyone does. Yeah. That's the only time that I have. I remember I'd grab a pizza, and then I'd go to Tesco and grab like a big dairy milk, and I'd grab like a what's it called? The low calorie ice cream.
Halo top.
And I might grab a packet of crisps as well. So pizza, and I'd have and it would end up being about fucking like 4,000, 5,000 calories.
Yeah.
So I don't think I did that. I can't recall doing that, other than maybe post show once or twice. Like after a show, I'd have a cheat.
Mate, I'd always convince myself that I needed it because I was a super heavy. Like, you need it. And I was like,
if you need it, you just need more food throughout your diet. So you're over dieting through the week.
That's what I used to do. Man. Yeah.
I think when you let yourself get depleted so far, though, even that one, because it's shit food, it's not going to fill you back up the same way like more rice will, is it?
No, it would go in and go out again straight away.
Yeah.
It was shit. I used to know, like, when we competed against each other, like that's how I was doing it back then. I think I was like 106 on stage, but kind of soft. You know what I mean? That's why I did so shit. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Well, you didn't do shit for a first time because
no. That was my third show.
Yeah, but still, it was a final. It was a third show. My first show, I was still doing a first time in Wigan.
Yeah.
I think that changes with time, because I used to be really bad with that. Like, I could, like, this year I didn't diet all the way down, but I dieted fairly. Like, I had a lot different mentality, like, dieting this year compared to years like past, where that would have been it. But this year I didn't even have a cheat meal. I was kind of like, I could have happily carried on. So it was kind of like almost like for a different purpose.
I think if you take the pressure off it, sometimes that could be a good thing.
Well, I didn't tell anyone I was dieting. I was just kind of did it.
And that's kind of what I do when I'm prepping. I won't tell anyone because, like I say, people instantly think you're in a bad mood. People instantly have got a comment to do it. I'll just do it. I mean, I was prepping with a lad because I always have people having an eye on me, having an influx of me. So I've prepped with two young lads that have just got degrees in nutrition and sports science and all that sort of stuff. And I have them because they've got the sort of most up-to-date research and stuff like that. They're very geeky about it, which you won't mind me saying, because that's what and they're always reading and doing stuff. Whereas I've been competing for 16 years. So I'm not sitting at home every night reading another article. I do it when I'm on prep sometimes, and I'll put the earphones in and do cardio and listening to stuff like this, a podcast and all that sort of stuff, and taking in information. But most of the time, I do my work, I go to the gym, I do my training, I eat my food, I'm on autopilot, and I go home and have a family life. But I can do that on autopilot. But so it's just having someone there to sort of have a look at things. I forgot what I was saying. What was I saying? I totally lost my track of thought.
Yeah, the mentality of basically like, you know, not taking it seriously, but almost not like past the point where you forget why you're doing it.
Yeah, and Kev said to me, that's what he said. That's what I was going to say. He said, you must be the only bodybuilder in the world who's a week out who hasn't put a single video or post on Facebook about a show.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. If you go back, once I started competing, I did it because obviously then it's out, the cat's out of the bag kind of thing. But if you look, I did one picture 12 weeks out, and it was like, I was just sitting here, right, ready to go for one, just considering what to do. And then my next post, I'm literally 3 days out.
Yeah. Do you know what? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
It's not good for business, but just do it. Stop fucking telling everyone you're going to do it. Do it.
Definitely. I stopped advertising on social media. Last year I did it for the first time, and I was like, fuck, that was great. I didn't tell anyone I was competing. I just competed, and then luckily I won the overall. So I just the first photo I showed was just of the sword. Do you know what I mean? And it's
that was the Manchester show, wasn't it?
No, that was it was actually 2020.
Oh, that was the PCA show, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then this year I didn't tell anyone I was doing FitX. That's when I saw you there. It's just so much better. Like, your phone is quiet on show day. You know,
he didn't fucking even tell me. Like,
I didn't tell you.
I was going to be there. Literally the night before, I had a client in there, right? And he messaged me like, "Oh yeah, bro, he looks really good." Didn't even fucking tell me he's doing it. I kind of knew. Do you know what? I knew because he'd done the show the week before.
Yeah,
2 weeks before. And I said to Josh, I'm like, Ryan's going to be, I got a feeling he's going to be here because he's not posted about his like regular shit, like your normal shit that he normally posts. I'm like, he's not posted anything, so he's going to be here tomorrow.
There's something about it, mate. Honestly, just turning up and doing it. There's something about it. It's fun.
Yeah.
I like that shit.
I mean, it doesn't work in today's social media society, but Dorian, that is one thing that he did have right. He just literally came back and trained and went over there and won, and then let everyone talk about me. And everyone was talking about him because he was a champion. I mean, I don't think any of us are at that stage yet where everyone's talking about us and worried about us. But if you can be that, then great, because everyone's still talking about you. You don't need to talk about yourself.
Yeah, there's something amazing about that. Like, because like no one else did that. Turn up, take it all, go back. Like, it's fucking...
I think what you said about the business part, though, it's not with what we do now. We kind of make our money through showing our training, showing.
Well, even Dorian could have made a shit ton more money if he wanted to go out there and do all that, but he wouldn't have been the entity that he was. But I'm sure he could have made a lot more money if he wanted to. But
in a weird way, that becomes a thing in itself. Hence the shadow.
Exactly, and not to be dominated by money as well, because it's an important factor. But as long as you've got enough to do what you want to do, and if you want to go on a couple of holidays a year and eat whatever you want and have a decent car, then maybe 40 grand a year is enough. That's enough. If you want to buy a Porsche and live in Dubai or whatever else, then you need to push for that. But you don't even need to earn what you need to earn to do what you need to do. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think also, if you know that, say if you're someone that you know that you've got the capability to get far in bodybuilding, then sure. But if you kind of think, well, I could probably barely win a regional, then is it really worth you kind of,
Well, yeah. Well, there's some people posting everything and they're fucking shit, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's like, why? We don't care. You're shit. I'm sorry, but it's true. So, yeah. That's the day and age we live in. Right, anyway, I think we should wrap it up. It's been a while now.
Yes.
All right, mate.
I told you we'd go off on a tangent.
Yeah, fuck me. I don't even know. We lost.
We haven't even put anything in room 101 at all.
We lost the room 101. Yeah.
Hey, I think they all went in. Fuck it. But yeah, I really appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much.
Good. No problem, mate.
Thanks, brother. See you soon.